Let's cut right to the chase. Creative people are pretty nuts, and I know this because I'm one of them. If you're like me, you wonder, how do people get over the issues we face? That's what this show is all about. Think of each episode as a warm bath for the soul. We're all in this together, so let's do something good with the time we have left. This show is my love letter to the human condition. This, my friends, is Sentimental Illness. So here's the reality, guys. I always have a monologue, and today I don't. And the reason I don't is the same reason I didn't have a monologue last time, which is I don't really have much to say in that regard. I'm not a Mark Maron. I'm not a Pete Holmes. I'm not a comedian. I don't necessarily have a super cool take on the world today. The last thing I want to talk about is politics or, how I thought I had cancer or something like that, because that's so last year. So that being said, I want to jump straight to the band. I want to jump straight to the guest because I've been wanting to have this guy on for a while. I love this band from Quebec, and I think we're going to have some great things to talk about. So before I bring Michael on, I want to say this. He and I had to reschedule one time, and that happens quite a bit. The artists are very busy. There's a lot going on in our lives. A lot of us don't have the chance to be on full-fledged world tours making $10 million a night like Bono. So most of us have day jobs. I don't want to assume these things about Michael, but I will say that I do. I have a voiceover job, right? That's why I'm in my booth. And I'm busy, man. It's just the way it is. So anyway, Michael and I, we had to reschedule, and we had a chance to have a phone call a couple days later, and he's such a great guy. I mean, so nice, so down to earth. And that's always such a nice thing, because there are times when I hear promos, I get a lot of emails from PR companies and labels that send me music that I might like. And because my tastes tend to lean towards the heavier or more aggressive, at least the older I get, when I find a band like BornBroken, I really tend to fall in love quickly, especially when the music is incredibly well produced. And that is something that is very true with this new record, and something that I can't wait for you to check out yourself, because after you hear this interview, you're definitely going to want to go and get that record. So let me do this. Michael Decker is my guest, and his band BornBroken is kind of everything for me. It's the kind of thing that I really fall in love with quickly because it's easy for me to like. As most of my followers, listeners, whatnot know, I tend not to be focused too heavily on lyrics. I'm not critical about that because honestly, as a rhythm player, as a drummer, I am listening to what's going on in the bottom of the song, in the bass, in the guitars. The vocals certainly mean a lot to me. The sound of the vocals, the mix, everything, all the technical aspects of things matter to me. But of course, I'm one of those weirdos that matters way more to me than the overall delivery. And lyrics have never been something that matters. But today, I'm actually hoping to get underneath that, because I think when you have an album and a band named BornBroken, I think chances are you have something very interesting to talk about. So anyway, I'm very fortunate to have Michael here today. He's an original of the originals of this band. He's the man behind the legacy of the band. And as I said, if you like me and you like hard-hitting, gut-punching, brutal rock right in your face, the metal as it were, this is the band BornBroken is for you. So I'm going to bring my man on, calling in all the way from the magic of Quebec, Canada. This is Michael Decker, and welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and you? Thank you so much for having me on.
You know what, brother? You're more than welcome. I am very excited that you're here. I think this is ultimately just super cool. And I want to say something right off the bat. Normally, when I jump into a show, I feel like I don't really know an artist. For the most part, I've never had a chance to have any pre-production chats with them or, whatever you want to call it. So I tend to go off on this little side thing that I've invented, which is basically conversation starters, ways to get things going between you and I.
Yeah.
And, when we had to reschedule, I discovered I really like this guy and I don't think I need to do that. We can just kind of jump straight into the meat and the potatoes,
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like to do today instead of talking about politics in the world or dumb things like, who was born today and what famous artist committed suicide yesterday. You know what I mean? We just don't need to talk about that stuff. So.
Sounds good to me.
And not making light of that, by the way, either. I didn't want that to come off incorrectly.
No. Of course not. Of course not. See, I guess that's the thing. I guess when I guess certain age or certain style of person, certain kind of jokes like that just kind of slide off of you type of thing. And
yeah,
you don't get offended by that.
Yeah. God bless us all. No, it's so true. I am very fortunate that I'm talking to somebody who you're not as old as me, but we are in a sort of a like-sided generation. We're not very far apart.
I was an ex.
And which is sad because it means something's wrong with both of us. But these kids, man, they're so weird. They're also freaking weird. And they're also scared shitless of anything that provokes. You know what I mean? They take immediate offense. They don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt and they shut you off immediately. And that is, that really sucks, man. People are pansies.
I guess live and let live, live and let learn. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard. You just got to shrug it off and that's it. You know what I mean? Go from there and whatever happens. Yeah. It's the way it is. I don't get involved now in online politics with friends or battles or things like that anymore. I just don't, I'd be going down that rabbit hole like crazy. So I just, whatever, just go with it. I don't have the time for that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't either.
I have the time for this.
Well, thank you. But thank you for showing up. Super cool. I know it's the end of your day there. You're 3 hours in front of me and we're recording in the afternoon. So, I mean, I get it.
I'm still at work, actually.
Really?
I finished off at my office and I said, you know what? I'm not going to drive home. So I'll just log on here and do it from the office. That's it.
Right on. Well, okay, so this is a dumb way to start, but I'm going to start out really stupid, and everybody's going to roll their eyes. But you live in Quebec,
Montreal,
in Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay, so all this being said, I don't know anything about that province. I mean, outside of what I've read in books, I've never been there. I've been close. I've been to as close as Niagara Falls, but that's as close as I've ever been.
Okay, it's about 6-7 hours away. Yeah.
Right. So not close at all. So what I'd like to start with is just a basic. Were you born and raised there, or did you end up there?
Yes, I've been born and raised here. I was actually, partly raised too down in northern Florida, Daytona Beach.
Wow.
That's where my mom relocated when I was about 12. So I grew up half here and half there, stuff like that.
Wow. Okay, but you were born in Montreal?
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand that clearly means that your parents split and you sort of took another route.
Yeah,
I get that, but those first 12 years, the childhood in Montreal, how did it form you? Because I see you as an adult now. I like who I've met so far. I certainly love the music. I love the intensity of what you've created.
Yeah.
But how does that little guy turn into the monster that writes these awesome heavy songs?
You know what? I'm gonna have to say it's growing up as a little independent kid and having to fight through to just get his. You will want to put it harshly, not the parents' approval, but just trying to get his parents' attention type of thing.
I gotcha.
My dad was like a race car driver, race car mechanic and stuff, and he was always under a car. And my mom was always busy with her life. You know what I mean? So that's kind of thing. Not that my parents are bad people at all. You know what I mean? It's just they're first immigrants here from Europe, from Austria and Germany. They came here and they loved life. You know what I mean? They lived the wild side. You know what I mean? So I grew up that little wild child, you know, type of thing. And so that's kind of that. The rest of it, should I say, when I first grew up, all the signs here in Montreal and Quebec were in English with French as the secondary language. In 1980, when I turned 8, the political parties changed and the Parti Québécois won the seats, and everything flipped over. Everything became French, and everything became English became the minority.
Yeah.
So, which is, you know what, which is an okay thing, because Quebec is a predominantly French province, you know.
Yeah.
And there's not a problem with that. It's great. It's a multilingual thing. We're like a melting pot here in Montreal. There's a lot of nationalities here, a lot of languages, a lot of different music and stuff. It's a great place. It was like the Paris of North America. Do you know? There type of thing, or like the New York of Canada type of thing, you know, the melting pot. But there became a massively political and linguistic divide. So being an Anglophone, it became really, really hard for me there as a young kid and stuff, you know. And I also had a speech impediment then, so I stuttered very, very badly. So for me to try to learn a secondary language and speak it there, whatever else, just to get my own language out and not be made fun of, to speak a secondary language on top of that and try not to be made fun of, it really kind of boxed me into wanting to just speak English, you know, type of. So that's kind of life, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, well, look, there's a lot to dig apart here, and I really like that. So thank you. You've given me a lot of options right off the bat. Yeah. But I guess what I would like to address, if you're cool with it, and it might be a little uncomfortable. Well, you talk about the stutter. Yeah. And I admit I only kind of know about stutters in the sense of what I've seen through history, right? Some famous people who've stuttering, but people who've overcome it, movies I've seen about it, right? Mm-hmm. That sort of approach. I've read, and in fact, just recently, that stuttering really comes from this deep-seated desire, and I have no idea if this is true, so just roll your eyes if I'm wrong. Okay. But this deep-seated desire to connect with somebody, and the desperation to connect is so great that your brain can't process the words. Your body can't process the words fast enough for your brain. It can't keep up. Yeah. And so it's typically found in children whose parents are at odds with each other, or people who are seeking attention. Does that sort of ring true to you?
I would almost say that feels like 100%.
Wow.
My brain is going so fast, and I want to get so much out. And so I guess I wasn't trying to be like an attention seeker there when like I was younger and stuff. I guess so. Yeah, I could see that, you know, wanting the acknowledgement, stuff like that, you know. And it's still. My wife still says it today too sometimes. She's like, you know, your music is your music. You've done it. You've had your success. You know what I mean? Stop trying to look for that. What's the word I'm trying to find?
The panacea, approval. Like the fix.
That approval. No, stop trying to look for that approval. So like Your music is your music. You do what you do. You don't need approval from other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look at it through my art, through my designs, through my this. I'm always trying to get, you know, and I guess that stems from, the youth, you know?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Growing up a musician myself, I think the thing that I definitely click with you on all cylinders is this deep-seated belief that I was going to do something with what I've been given, right? This gift that I have, and I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to leave my mark. I'm going to make myself feel like I've achieved something, which in turn is going to, quote unquote, make me happy.
Yeah.
And all the people I've befriended along the way, I befriended simply for the sake, even though I didn't know this at the time, that I was building a fan base. So I could say to all these people, see, I did this thing, which would really, really expose the fact that somewhere down hidden inside was this little child that was broken up by unintentionally narcissistic parents.
Yeah, it feels exactly right. Yeah, that totally feels that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, yeah, it does.
Wow. Okay. So I actually, I don't know if my mom even listens to podcasts anymore, but she used to listen to this a lot. So I don't ever pick on my mom because
No.
we're all human. We all make
Yeah,
mistakes.
exactly.
My father passed away.
Different
Yeah.
times, you know what I mean?
Yes, that's right.
Different
But
times, different crimes.
correct. And that's the thing. I have often said out loud many times that I was a latchkey kid. Now, was I all the time? Of course not. But my mom was instantly offended that I would even bring it up that it ever happened one time. And I'm like, well, it did. I'm sorry if it offends you, but there were times we lived in a different era. I lived in a rural environment where you could be in a house by yourself all day as a 5-year-old. Nobody's going to come and rape and murder me. Nobody's going to come and break into my house and steal my parents' stuff. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And we were safe and we sort of lived on our own that way. Now, like I said, very uncommon, but it did happen. Was that a situation you encountered as well? Were you literally that autonomous that you had a chance to just go, hey, I think I want to learn how to play a musical instrument?
Like I said, my parents were always out and about. My dad was
Right.
at the tracker under a car. My mom was at work or there, whatever else. At least that's the memory that's been burned into my brain now.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? From that sort of lifestyle. My uncle, who grew up in Philadelphia, who was an architect and artist and all around wild guy too himself, gave me a guitar when I was, I think, 4 or 5. Or
Right
the
on.
first pictures that my mom have of me playing a guitar when I was like 3. And so she basically, he gave me a guitar and one of his big amps. I think back then it was an old Trainer, you know, and I would plug it in at 5 o'clock in the morning, being 5-year-old, and just turn all the dials, crank them full, crank them full,
Right.
and just play.
Right.
And my parents are like, "What the hell? What? This is too much." You know what I mean? And yeah, but that I think that was the real first thing that brought me to that. This extreme sound, this extreme. And I always felt calm afterwards. You know what I mean? Like doing anything extreme, I always felt this calming feeling afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
Now that makes a lot of sense. What I've always gotten from metal or any heavy music of any kind, any aggressive music, that the real meaning behind it is the catharsis that it offers. It really isn't so much about the words as it is the feeling it creates.
oh yeah, big time.
Wow. Yeah, that's right on. Okay. So you discover music is your key, is the thing, is the driving force, is the part that's hidden inside of you that's coming out and it's giving you an identity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still feel that same way? Do you look at yourself? Do you look back and say, well, here I am, a 52-year-old version of that kid? Is it still burnt into your psyche in such a way that you're still sort of proving yourself?
Yeah, that's the word I was trying to find with what my wife was saying. She says, you got to stop trying to prove yourself. Yes, 100%. Even when, I still have some little spits and spats with my parents, whatever else, over something there or another, I still revert back to that little child that's looking for approval.
Yeah.
It's as crazy as it sounds. And I tell my wife that too a lot. You know what I mean? I'm like, why do I still revert to that? Why, because I'm still looking for either some sort of acknowledgement, some sort of forgiveness, some sort of this, some sort of acknowledgement that, yeah, they put it bluntly, fucked up, you know what I mean? Type of, and it's like, and I'm not going to get it, So yeah. So yeah, I still revert back there every now and then. Of course,
Yeah. It's interesting that you said forgiveness. I mean, I really like actually that you use that word because it's not your fault.
No.
Like, it's insane how kids think, right? Our parents do something, they do something to each other, and we blame ourselves that they must be doing it because of the chaos, the turmoil, the frustrations they fear from us, you know? And it's never our fault.
I don't think, well, maybe I'm the one looking for forgiveness from them, not me looking, you know what I mean? Not like the other way type of thing, you know? I think I'm expecting I'm sorry, we fucked up, you know, type of thing.
Right.
I know I'm not going to get it, you know, so that's life.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad, because I wouldn't want you to feel guilty for their choices. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Like I said, different times, different crimes. We all, you know what I mean? They didn't know any better, and a lot of people didn't either. You know, it was the wild times then. It was the early 70s.
Yeah.
What was the early 70s like? It was parties. It was crazy. It was Corvettes and cocaine. Come on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's reason those movies look the way they do. Because that's how it was.
It was, you know what I mean? And my parents were 100% in it, you know, and seeing that too made me want to be in that world too, you know? And so.
Wow. Okay. And your mother is still alive, but your father's since passed, or?
No. They're both still alive. Yeah. Well, my mom's still in Daytona. She just went through the 2 hurricanes there, whatever else. And crazy thing, my mom and dad are back together, which was another 6 years of therapy. Yeah.
Wow. I'm really liking your story, man. This is really cool stuff. Wow. So they're still together. They got back together and they're still together.
Yeah. So my dad spends 6 months down there in Florida for the winter. Then he comes up here and he does the race circuit there up here.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they figured it out. That's rad, man. I love it.
I guess, you know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, I don't know. I guess it works for them, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. You know what? Again, you know what I mean? They're happy. What am I going to do now? You know, they're 80 and 78, you know, I'm going to let them live their life now, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm 52. I can't blame them for all of my faults, you know?
Yeah.
99.9%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is learned. I mean, I don't care what people say about heredity, man. Yeah, you're born a certain way. You're born with certain conditions. I get it. But you know what, man? All your behavioral stuff, dude. I mean, with the rare exception of the guy who's just born a psychopath, right? Because he doesn't have the right things, the right fluids in his brain.
Yeah.
Everybody else, it's all based on what you've learned, what you've seen, what you've heard. Yeah. So it sounds like you made it through, man, and that's what matters. You're
barely.
Yeah, but you're a good cat, and I can tell. Yeah. You know. So did you think you'd be doing this? Meaning, like, when you're a kid, there's always these wild expectations that you're going to grow up to be some amazing thing. Like, I don't think there's anybody that says someday when I grow up, I'm going to be a plumber. And not to knock plumbing, obviously required a big deal, well-paying job, a great job, in fact. But I don't know if many people dream about doing those types of jobs, right? Being traditional blue collar working. Were you always dreaming about being on a stage, writing music, not necessarily being famous or the celebrity or the wealth that, you know, people believe comes from this business, but did you always see yourself as being a performer? That's what you were going to do?
Some sort of artistic thing. I think so. Just due to the fact of staring through all my parents' double LPs with the album covers and seeing the, you know what I mean, Queen live and Destroyer and JJ Cale and Supertramp and all that stuff, you know, ELO. Those are all the albums and bands I grew up with, you know, and just listening to the records, you know what I mean, putting them on and from front to back. And it's, I knew I wanted to do something where it's crazy as it sounds, the focus was on me, and it sounds, I guess, narcissistic there, or whatever else, but kind of that, I guess, because I was always looking for that approval or something, you know what I mean? Yeah. People are looking there at me, which sounds kind of shitty, but it's no, it's true. It does, but you know, it's that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it sounds shitty, but I do understand what you mean. I do get that. And it's interesting too, what you're sharing. you're talking about these bands and these records that were part of your childhood, that they might have been owned by your parents' record collections. But the fact is that material, you mentioned Queen Live Killers, you talk about Supertramp, you talk about ELO. Holy crap. I mean, that's the exact same stuff. And part of it is generational.
Yeah.
But I don't know a lot of kids. I mean, I was 14 in 1980, so I was born in 66.
Okay.
So I've got 6 years on you, but my brain remembers I was the only kid that listened to Supertramp. You know what I mean? My brain remembers that I was the only kid that had Queen Live Killers, or that had a Tom Jones record, or a Paul Revere and the Raiders record. I wasn't listening to James Taylor. I was listening to aggressive rock or prog rock, like early Styx, early Kansas, early Rush.
Yeah.
Those were the things that really stuck in my craw. You know, so I just like what you're saying, man, because it probably tells me why I like you so much. We have the same sort of basic cultural DNA, you know.
Yeah. I used to listen to Crime on the Century on repeat when I was like 5 or 6. You know what I mean? It's just I'd loved that album cover, just the hand going through the cage in space. It was just like it just drew me. And when you're listening to like Queen, you know what I mean? Like We Will Rock You, and you open up that double LP, and there's the robot with all the dead members of Queen in his hand, with the blood dripping down, you know?
Yeah.
And you look at Destroyer, Kiss, and you got all these. I was like, this is crazy. This is awesome, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, there was this violent sub-imagery. It wasn't like the metal stuff that we got in the early 80s when thrash bands started to put out really, really brutal album covers. Yeah. Like the first Sodom record, the first, you know what I mean, Accept, I mean, Balls to the Wall, and the sound of somebody's testicles getting crushed.
So my uncle was an avid painter too, because like I said, he went to like art school and stuff in Philly and stuff. I had these very eclectic paintings on the walls of naked women and pictures of Pandora's box, and leading into a weird atmosphere, and a lot of weird trippy stuff. I had stone statues that he had of pictures of like this, like Jesus coming out of a tree type of thing. And so I've had a lot of weird things that I grew up with. And then of course he really loved his basically his neon colors and stuff, you know what I mean? So his fluorescent colors. So I'd have all these weird pictures of Jimi Hendrix, you know what I mean, that you put on the black light, the lava lamp, and these colors would just pop and stuff, right?
Yeah. So, the velvet posters.
Yeah, well he used to paint these, so we had all these things. So I had tons of these things, you know, and my friends would come over and they'd be like, you know, you have a picture of a naked girl on the wall, and I was like, yeah, that's Samantha or whatever else.
Did you know?
You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, it's just there. You know what I mean? But they were like, they didn't understand. But to me, it just seemed normal. You know?
Yeah.
Whether it was or not, you know what I mean? It's you know.
Yeah, it was a weird time because culturally, transitionally, it was going from, and again, my take is from the American side of the border, right? But it was, the television we were seeing was stuff like All in the Family and the Jeffersons, right? So we had TV shows that were very aggressive about cultural change, the way the world was moving away from super white culture to more of a melting pot of culture, right? You know, the mid to late 70s, especially when New York City was becoming, was already a cesspool, but was becoming more gang focused. And there was a real big concern that the cities were places people couldn't live anymore because there was so much upheaval. And the music, the music we were growing up with wasn't just that, it was also bands like the Carpenters and then the British New Wave thing happened, right? All of a sudden you've got the, you know, Judas Priest coming out with British Steel, and then, you know, all of a sudden it's what was it, Screaming for Vengeance, and then you get these records that were very violent images the blood records, you know what I mean? And then the PMRC comes out and tries to change the whole thing. And then we get all of this weak pabble, like New Kids on the Block, until Nirvana came back and fucked it all up for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So BornBroken.
Yeah.
When does that happen and why does it happen? Because with a name like that, there has to be a bigger story behind it than just I put together a band and called it BornBroken.
Nope, that's exactly it.
Really?
Yep.
Oh man.
I thought it there. Just fuck it. Fuck this whole thing up. No. Yeah. No. It really was.
Really?
I first got sober when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
And just to tell you how crazy my life was, I started a bunch of bands. I was already playing. Quit college. Joined this cover band and made stupid money, sex, drugs, rock and roll at a very young age, and was like, I'm doing this forever type of thing. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to work a normal job. I'm just going to try to do this.
Yeah.
Do that. This is going what leads up to it. Started another metal band, etc., etc. Go on, meet my wife, or my wife now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in this band called Resisting Arrest then. And we do that went well. I got hired. I went over to Europe, did a stint over there for a while with another band. And what happened was she got pregnant, which is great. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, I'm going to try to do the proper thing and have a normal job, seeing as my artistic side can open up my own company. I was already doing the entrepreneurial thing, right? You know, it's kind of hard to really do the 9 to 5 and work for somebody else when you're in this artistic world. So you kind of do your own thing, whether it's designing or this or that, or so stuff like that.
Yeah.
And basically I was doing that and started my own company. This is going now, blah, blah, blah. And in 2008, basically a bunch of friends, a couple of guys said, hey, we're starting this jam session. Do you want to come by and try out? You know what I mean? Or just jam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, sure. So went in there and jammed, gelled with the guys. And right away I was like, okay, like 2 weeks in, I'm like, well, we need to record. We need to do the album. We need to have merch. We need to have this. We need to have that. Like everything just came flooding back, you know. My wife was like go out and play because you're driving me mad on top of that.
Smart wife.
Yeah. So during that whole scene again, I basically went back out, tried to explore the world again and experiment, and then I got sober again, and now I'm 20 plus years sober.
Yeah.
But
congrats.
Thank you. But through all that was what was just the insanity of life, you know. And we were sitting there, and our singer at the time, we're staring for names, and he just wrote it out, BornBroken, right? And I was like, dude, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And like you couldn't have struck a better chord within me. I was like, BornBroken, yeah. So of course I wasn't born broken, but you know, then of course you try to think of what can BornBroken mean? What can it portray? What type of sound? What type of feeling? You know? And
yeah,
it seems to really work, because nowadays whatever you bring into the world, you're bringing it into a broken world. Whatever you're doing, you're basically starting from a negative 500. You know, so that's kind of, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, this I could go down this road forever. I think it's a perfect name for a band.
Yeah.
And I'm actually shocked that other bands haven't utilized that, because it really is a fantastic name.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the music, of course, certainly speaks to that as well. You know, you had told me in my little pre-production email you had sent me saying, hey, it's kind of weird to now be the face and the voice of the band because it's been so long.
Yeah.
What, if I may be so bold to pry, is what happened with BornBroken? I mean, look, I get it. Bands go through cycles. They go through members. They go through idea changes, genre changes, all kinds of things. You never know what a band is going to do.
Yeah.
But how did the band end up here, and why are you standing up front and center again?
I was always basically kind of the front man in the bands. I guess why? Because I wanted to sing a certain way. I wanted a certain perception. I wanted a certain thing. This is what I wanted, and I wanted it. And I was going to do it. Whether that sounds again narcissistic or being a prick or whatever else, it's
No.
I had a vision, and I was the only one who'd be able to get it out.
I understand it completely.
So that kind of happened. Not that I was the final say in everything, but I kind of brought a lot to the board. For this band, when it all came about, again, because I guess I had not been playing for a couple years again, and I'd put everything aside to try and run my businesses. You know, I had 2 kids. They were young. Amelia at the time being was 298, so she was 10. And Alicia was 8. So they're still in elementary school, preschool type of stuff, you know, and they're just starting high school soon. So it's like, all right, I got to do the proper thing. And I think with all that being with starting the new band, I said, you know what? Let's try something different. Let's just play again. You know what I mean? Let's just sit back and just write. Let's be the guy who can stand on the side of the stage and just headbang. You know what I mean? Rock those riffs hard. You know what I mean? Just sit there and grind them out. You know, down pick the shit out of stuff.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what kind of was. And the amount of singers or vocalists that we went through, and also drummers and XX blah blah blah. It just the way this last thing fell in, it just was the studio. Our latest singer, Pepe, a great guy, great friends. But he just, I don't know, he had a personal meltdown or something. Something just wasn't going right. And it just wasn't the right time for him. And he had to step down, and it wasn't nothing against his ability or this or that. It just didn't work. The only thing is right now we're right in the middle of studio. That's already being paid for. That's already being that. And we just had to do what we had to do.
Yeah.
So from one day to the next, I grabbed the microphone again and was pounding them out.
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. I love how you sound. If I could be so bold. Yeah. I mean, that record is fantastic. It's a total headphone record. It's ballsy, chunky, but the separation of instruments, it's very, very well produced. I actually don't know who produced it or engineered it. Was that you as well? Or
no, that was
okay.
That was Christian Donaldson from the band Cryptopsy.
Okay. I definitely know.
Yeah. He does a lot of the Montreal acts up here. He's kind of like the go-to guy now.
Right.
He actually reamped our first album back in 2013, and he mixed and recorded our second album also too. So it just became the norm, I guess, to ask him to do the third one. You know, and of course you only get better with time, right? So his ear is just insane, and he picks things out that I'd be like, I'd do a riff and he's like, no, do it again. And I'd be like, oh, dude, that sounds good. He's like, no, you missed a fucking downstroke. And I'd be like, how the hell do you know what I mean? I'm like, it's just, you know what I mean? I come from the era of like, you press play on a tape deck and away you go. You know what I mean? Like a cassette tape deck, and that's your jam. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Little Tascam 408.
Yeah. I'm talking just the Radio Shack, like
oh yeah.
Like boombox there in the jam space type of thing. Okay. Just press record and away you go. No. So so he's a master at that. And we kind of give him what we want to try and sound like, but you know, after you do bands like Suffocation and Aborted and Ingested, and you start to mix all these crazy ass bands, The Agonist, his band themselves. It's like, you kind of just let them go with it, you know, and what comes out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So thematically, you know, this record, that "Am I Invisible," the first track that I had heard, uh, is do you feel like the record is saying a specific thing? Meaning, do you feel that there is a general feel to what the record is saying and how the record sounds versus a disparate? You know, because a traditional album is basically, you know, at least in our era, you grew up, you had, you know, 10 to 12 songs on a record. You had an A side and a B side, and you sort of picked where you would place the hit songs to get people to at least check out the other material. You knew if you put that hit right up front, chances are nobody's going to listen to the rest of the record, right? So bands would bury the hit like the 8th or ninth track on a CD or the 3rd or 4th track on an LP. Do you feel like this new record is one big cohesive thing?
We're still old school there in the sense that that's the way we write. That's the way that put our albums there together. The first album was actually, just to show you the way things go. The first album was actually a concept album. Okay, right, about one man and the voices inside of his head. The second album was a lot more aggressive, but it was still the sense that every song leads into the next type of feeling, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
kind of the same with this one, but not the same sort of aspect. But when we're writing and when we're putting the album together, I'm still looking at it as you're going to listen to the whole thing in one shot. So yes, we place the songs accordingly so that there's not really too much of a lull within the feeling. You know, you have your emotional spikes and your feelings and your this and your that, and we know, okay, we're not going to put 5 aggressive songs back to back to get people so, you know what I mean? You got to give them time to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, feel it, you know, absorb what just happened, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's so good. It is so good. I've been wanting to ask you this, and I'm always hesitant. It's not the influence question, but mostly because you kind of already detailed, even if you weren't necessarily influenced musically in the sense of performative wise, the kind of music you play based on what you heard, chances are there's bits and pieces of Queen and Supertramp and everything you do, right? There's DNA in there, regardless if it doesn't sound like those bands.
Mm-hmm.
But when I listen to BornBroken, this new record, and I listen to Am I Invisible, there has to be some modern, aggressive metal that spoke to you. And I'm not saying you're riffing on it or doing your own version of another band that's not it at all. But do you find yourself getting lumped in with bands? Do you find yourself getting compared to, or for that matter, if you do any regional touring or small festivals or anything like that, do you get stuck with a certain group of individuals that you wish maybe you were set apart from so your music would be heard better?
I think a lot of people say that I sound like Corey Taylor and a mix of like Rob Flynn type of thing.
Sure.
Which is, like I said, odd because my first band was 1991. You know what I mean?
Right.
Slipknot was nowhere around. You know,
right,
type of thing. And Machine Head came out in 1995. You know what I mean? So, I guess, yeah. You know what? It doesn't matter. I think I think like absorbing it, not through osmosis, but basically just because you're so much around it, your sound kind of gets inundated by it, whether you like it or not. You know, you kind of get bits and pieces from this, from that. You feel certain stuff, you hear certain stuff, and whether you sit down and you write this riff subconsciously, yeah, it may be because you heard this or because you heard that, you know, so many thousands of times, right? Because Slipknot's been played so much, and Pantera has been played over and over, you know, and stuff like that. And Machine Head's been played over and over, and Sepultura Roots has been played over and over.
Yep.
Biohazard and Going On, Anthrax and Exodus and Nuclear Assault,
yes,
and SOD and MOD and DRI, and you keep on going and you keep on going. And then, of course, I'll go back farther and say Old Def Leppard and Crocus and Budgie and Diamond Head, you know, and stuff like that. And so you get all these bands that I would listen to, you know, and you kind of, those influences come out. Forbidden, Flotsam and Jetsam, those are bands, you know, Sanctuary, before Nevermore, stuff like that. So those are bands you kind of, Skin Lab from Seattle.
Yeah. I'm very familiar.
Yeah, so those are bands too. You get those sounds and you hear those grinds, and yeah, you want to be able to do those too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to be able to sit back on the stage and just go.
Yeah.
Feel that grind and feel that. So yeah, do I take some of that influence from that? Yeah, of course, I guess. You know what I mean? Look, I even take influence from Seven Dust. I don't sound anything like Seven Dust, you know what I mean? But their chunks and their drugs are monstrous,
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up Seven Dust. I don't hear any of that, but I would say this, that I'm friends with Kyle Thomas from Exhorder. And I don't know if you know Exhorder, but they were well, I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean,
dude, the truth. I walk the streets with my genitals bouncing free with your law dressed in blue takes me away because I'm hung better. Okay, if I naughty beat the stage brutally because proof is all that speaks. Motherfucker, dude. I burned through about 6 of those CDs.
Okay.
Slaughter in the Vatican, all that. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah. Exhorder was a big influence on me. I'm not gonna lie. That's very much so. Vinny and Kyle and all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. You know as well as I do that Pantera sounds like Pantera because of Exhorder.
Yeah,
it's true.
I know.
You and I know this.
Yeah.
A lot of people know this. People who are fans of Exhorder know this, but Pantera fans don't know this. Yeah. They don't. If they started with Pantera, right? If they started with Cowboys from Hell, they don't hear any of it. And then if you go to the 2018 record, the Southern, I can't remember, Stray the Southern Skies, I think is the name of the record.
Yeah.
And Marzi Montazeri's playing guitar. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Man's a beast.
He is.
Long story short is there's well, obviously all the tracks, but if you listen to that record and you'll swear it's a Pantera record.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll absolutely 100% swear they have a new record out. And then you'll wonder how that happened because, Dimebag and Vinny have been gone. So here's the reality. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe BornBroken actually influenced Slipknot. You just don't know.
Never. No. Not going there.
I couldn't resist.
No, not going there.
Okay, fine.
Those words will not be uttered from my mouth. Sorry.
I mean, I understand why you would say that, but as an outsider fan, I could dream that maybe somebody heard a record somewhere and just like, I don't know what it is, but I want to cop this guy's sound.
Yeah, no. First of all, I think Slipknot was first. I think their first get together was in the early '90s too.
Yeah. Yeah, 93, 94 or something.
And they're in Iowa, and I'm down in Montreal. There'd be no.
I get it. Yeah. No, I get it. I know. I think I'm just making weird content here.
Yeah, my big thing was when Resisting Arrest was really pushing hard, stuff like that, and some of the other bands. All the labels were now looking at this new style band coming called LOA, Life of Agony, with their new set, which is another big. Kind of influence there on me too, you know what I mean? Like their albums, Smoke, River Runs Raiders is just awesome.
I recognize that most artists are crazy people because I'm definitely one of them. Now, this is not to imply that you are, but you know full well that when you see other bands, you see other artists and creatives, you see a lot of bonkers behavior and you wonder sometimes why it's happening, especially when it's happening out loud. People tend to behave weirdly when they are weird people. And again, I'm one of those people. All this being said, I've discovered recently in the last, say, 12 months that my inner monologue becomes an outer monologue a lot, right? I start thinking about things and the next thing I know, I'm saying them out loud. I think they're in my brain, but I'm actually saying them out loud as I'm walking around during the day or commenting on life in general. And it's probably because I'm bored most of the time and don't have anybody to talk to. So all this being said, because you're a creative person and you're thoughtful and you have a wide body of experience, right? Of a plethora of life experiences, good and bad. Do you find that, you have an inner monologue that becomes an outer monologue, or are you in a sense using songs to be your outer monologue?
My wife tells me I don't have a filter. That I you know what I mean. That I just and I can't really read people. So in other words, I say things a lot of times that are shocking, that
Right.
seem normal to me. And she's like, "Didn't you just see the reaction that you got?" And I was like, "No, not at all." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "You have like I'm not gonna say I don't have people skills, but I kind of probably don't. You know what I mean? Do I get a lot out through my lyrics and through music? Yes, 100%. Is it an outlet? Yes. Whether it be the sports that I did, there's a kid too, or whatever else. Yeah, I need something to be an outlet because my mind goes a mile a minute constantly, to the point where I can't sleep without the TV at night. I need something on, because as soon as I'm in a quiet zone, my brain's just zooming, and it's like,
Right.
like, so
Right.
they
Okay.
want to put
So
me on they want to put me on pills, but then I'm like,
nah.
my problem is that I'm not just going to take one of those pills. I'm going to take two or three or four. Like, let's
Yeah.
let's go to the extreme. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, and on top of the fact that all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid over a problem,
Yeah.
right? You're not necessarily managing the problem. And it seems to me you've already learned how to live with it anyway. It's just part
Yeah.
of who you are.
Yeah. I try to.
Yeah. Well, so, I found that every artist tends to sing or at least write material about the things they've been denied in life, right? Whether it's parental love or guidance or some weird ethical or moral choice, excuse me. Um, like every person I know who seeks wealth, for example, grew up poor. So their whole thinking is that I want wealth because that will make me better. That will make me happy. That's the thing I'm missing. And we all know that anytime we get something we thought was missing, it doesn't really change anything because the problem is somewhere deep in our heart, in our spirit, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a religious thing, but I mean, it is just part
No, it's
of who we are, right?
100% true. When I first got sober, with my wife basically, my wife's name is Nadia, by the way. So I'll just call her that there
Yeah,
from.
beautiful name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank her. And she basically told me, she says, look, she says, go and get better first. You have to learn how to love yourself first before you can love us again. And that's what I had to do. I had to go and learn how to love myself, because I guess I was eating myself up and I hated myself. So, so yeah, so that was basically that.
Yeah. Sounds like you have a very, very wise wife.
Yeah, I lean on her a lot. She's a big people person, and she has a lot of internal knowledge. She's like an old soul.
Yeah.
She's a great person. I run everything by her. It's just the proper thing to do, because being a musician or being whatever else, that doesn't matter what I write. I think it's the best thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question then coming out of the hole. Not that you're in a hole,
Yeah.
because you're not. I don't
No,
think that at all. But I find it interesting that people can go through tremendous challenge, and one of two things. Obviously, it's a very much a binary lifestyle, meaning there are people who are challenged as children who grow up completely altered and messed up, and they never really get their act together. They can never really figure it out. They don't get sober, or they're, inflicting some form of pain on themselves, and they're always seeking and they never find. And then there's guys like what I believe are people like yourself who have gone through what all of us go through, some sort of child trauma or some form of dysfunction somewhere in their life, but then they adjust, excuse me, they become adults, and then they sort of step into their truth and who they are, and they learn how to manage their life in a respectable and healthy way. You know what I mean? Do you find that you are the latter, as I believe you are? And do you find that it's easier to just, instead of masking pain, it's just easier to just stand up and be 100% transparent about everything all the time? Because, I mean, you've mentioned transparency a few times.
Yeah, I am nowhere near perfect, or should I say, even basically better 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I still fight my demons every day.
of course.
But yeah, yes, being transparent about it, very much so. Like, I don't have a problem to when people talk, I'm like, yeah. I used to be a crackhead. Like, it's you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, of course, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I was an extremist, and what, like, the only thing I didn't do was shoot up heroin, and it's because I just don't like needles there.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
whatever else, but I had to do the most extreme stuff. You know what I mean? So whether it came to drinking, I had to just drink as much as possible, not because I even liked the taste, just because I wanted to just be as fucked up as possible. So same with drugs and stuff, you know, I just
hmm
had to be as extreme as possible. So to get back to the question, what was the question again?
I don't even remember. I think it was just about controlling, being in control of your
Oh yeah,
transparency and realizing that it's better to be transparent than it is to mask pain. You know what I mean? You're not
Nadia's gonna.
masking any.
So Nadia's gonna roll her eyes now because she's like, you know, when you start talking, you actually stop thinking about what you're doing and you're listening to yourself more than you're actually answering the question. So just answer the bloody question and stop trying to listen to yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, being transparent. Yes. I think that's a way for me to keep things real now, is to just let people know 100%. Yeah, I'm that way. Yeah, I'm that's what I did in the past. Do I regret it? No. Did I do some shitty things? Yeah. Did I hurt people? Yeah. Did I make amends for it? Yes. Am I getting better and trying to be a better person every day? Yes. Am I going to be? No. You
Yeah.
know, will I make those same mistakes? No. Yes, but not as to that level of what I did there in the past. You know, and I'm still learning. You know what I mean? It's still, yeah, it's still a personal struggle. Am I going to be the perfect person? Probably not. You know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as I can try to be, that's, you know, all I can do.
No, it's great. I mean, you say you're still learning. So, I mean, what would you say is the best thing you've ever accomplished so far? Or maybe, what's the best thing you've accomplished and what are you still trying to accomplish?
Well, I'll say I'm always going to say this just because it's what it is. Raising our two kids.
Right. Right on.
The fact that they're 26 and 24 now, and we gave them the utmost ability to pursue their dream type of thing. Like, we're not uber rich or this or
Right.
that or wealthy there in a sense, but what we gave them is we gave them the tools to become personal people, knowing what they can do. We just made sure that they had a warm, warm bed to sleep in, all the food that they needed to eat, and the fact that they were able to focus and study on their um, their goals.
Yeah.
And as long as they had not that stress, because there's a lot of kids now where they go off to school and they have to work their jobs and they have to do their this and they have to pay for their school and pay for their rent and pay for their food and it becomes super hard. So as long as we were able to at least help out there in that sense, where they didn't have to pay for their rent, they didn't have to pay for food, everything was there, you know. Mommy did their laundry, daddy would pick them up at school, drive them there. If they stayed late at school, daddy would go pick them up and stuff like that, and, you know, drive them here, drive them there, do whatever. That was, I think, the best thing that I could do for them, you know.
Yeah.
So is that the one thing that I'm most proud of? Yeah, I could say I'm if there's one thing that I'm gonna be happy about when I'm in my old age is that, you know, that's the one thing I think that I 95% did right.
Right, right. Well, then what do you dream about? I mean, you've done that well. Obviously, you've raised two adults who you seem to be very confident and, feeling good about. You love them. You feel that they're in a good, competent place, right?
Yeah.
So what about you? Now you get to be selfish and do your thing for the rest of your days. Pretend that at least. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
If you want to put it bluntly, have a loving and fruitful relationship now with my wife, because
Awesome.
raising a 26-year-old and 24-year-old and only being together for 2 years, when we first had kids, or 3 years, we never really got to be together as a couple, should I say? You know what I mean? So that's that's going to be the thing. She's been behind me in all my musical endeavors, pushing me, you know what I mean, my rock, this and that. I just wish I could be as much there for her as she is for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I imagine you are, you just don't know it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'll go. Well, I'd like to believe that anyway.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Ding, ding.
Well, look, my last question for you, besides talking about, what's coming up for BornBroken.
Yeah.
But my last question for Mike is really just when you think about who you are, meaning if I were to say, tell me things you 100% confident in yourself that you are these things, not someday I'm going to be, like when you ask a kid and you say, what are you going to be when you grow up? Right. They say, someday I'll be an astronaut, for example. Yeah. But I'm saying, hey, Mike, who are you? You would say what? Like, I'm a killer musician. Like, what are you 100% confident with to describe yourself?
I would go back and say, you probably hear that banging.
I do, but it's okay. Everybody knows you're at the office anyway.
I would basically say I probably still don't know, because I'm still trying to look for that approval.
Yeah.
Wow. As crazy there as it sounds, I'm gonna say that. Am I a really good musician? Yeah, I am. Am I a great artist? Yeah. Am I great at my job? Yeah. Am I a great father? Yeah. But am I still looking for that approval? Yeah. Yeah. It sucks,
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all going to be doing that for the rest of our days. There's just no way to get around it. It's part of the broken human condition. The weird part about our spirit. We don't really know much about anything. We just know we need to be loved.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think I'm always waiting for someone to tell me what I'm good at, instead of me going, I know what I'm good at,
Right on. Wow, that's a fantastic, man. That's just an ender. That's like a total mic drop right there. Well, dude, look, I thank you so much for being here today. I feel like I've made a new friend. I really, really honor you. I love your band.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we go, that's what I would like you to do, because it's better for you to do it than for me to read off my half-ass research. Tell me about this new record. Tell me what's happening next for BornBroken, and where can people find your material?
Well, you can find us all if you follow us on any of the main social platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
We're also out on all the media platforms: Deezer, Tidal, Bandcamp, Apple Music, Spotify. We're also you could hit us up through linktree.com/BornBroken. There I list all the interviews, past interviews, stuff like that. So everything is there. You want to hit up our merch, all the links are there also for like our online merch. So you can hit everything up there. What's up for us now? Well, being an unsigned act, there's only so much that you can do in an album cycle. So we're trying to really push hard over these next couple months and play as many shows as we can. And then it just goes back into the proverbial 1-2 shows a month here or there,
right?
Whatever else. And playing across Canada in the Northeast, I'm sure in the wintertime is not the most funnest thing in the world,
No.
So out west it's not as bad, because you know what I mean, the lower regions you don't have that much snow, but for us here we get shitloads of snow and stuff, and you got to travel 6 hours between cities, and it's kind of harder there in the wintertime to tour and travel. So you play the local smaller towns and stuff.
Yeah.
And you do that. We do have a video coming out for Am I Invisible? It will be out soon. It should be out already, but we're just waiting for the right online platform to pick it up and to go with that, to give us that
cool
factor.
That's awesome, man. Look, I will definitely praise your stuff. I love your material. I love what the band's about. I actually played your music in one of the reaction things I did with an artist maybe a month and a half ago, and we just talked about it, and we loved it. So, we'll definitely talk about it. Yeah, you're welcome. It's fantastic. So
that's very humbling for me. You know what I mean? When like I find that people say that, you know what I mean? Like when I get off stage, like I'm a aggressive person, but then someone comes up to me and goes, you know what, your music is great, and it helps me out. You know what I mean? I think you know, that could be something that I feel proud of when people come to me and say, you know what, your music's helped me out. I think I've achieved success when I hear that, and I shouldn't even say success, but I think that's the pièce de résistance, the cherry on top, the knowing that, okay, you know what, I don't need to be that rock star to look for that success and play in front of thousands of people. As long as I was able to touch one person, that's what counts, you know?
You've been listening to Sentimental Illness with Rob Leland. Our theme song, Machine, has been graciously provided by Harris Heller. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast media. You can directly support the show on Patreon as well, where you can find us at patreon.com/This is Sentimental Illness. It also helps us a lot if you rate the show online, so jump out there and give us 5 stars. And lastly, always remember, your mind will overthink everything, but your heart can never love enough. See you soon.